So good afternoon. I am Anto Budiarjo. Welcome to Monday Live, something we do every Monday at 3 o'clock. Minder panelist profiles are on mondaylive.org, as well as other information. Most important here is the views expressed here are personal, not of any company or organizations. I think we all know how to use the Zoom tools, and also this slide deck is available on mondaylive.org. So this being a new month, a new week in the month, new week and the new week of a new month. There you go. So our theme for this whole month is using the Smarter Stack, which is the tool that we introduced last week to Monday Live. And the agenda today is our normal chit chat, and then we'll use the Smarter Stack to think about analytics. And John Petsy is going to lead us on that. So before that, we have some slides. I don't know if Ken is on the call today. He wasn't sure if he was going to be on. No,
I don't believe so.
Okay. But the August issue is up online, delivering smarter buildings, smarter, everything's all smarter these days. And he actually put quite a bit of exposure of the Smarter Stack as a template. So that'll be interesting to see what cracked in there. John, over to you.
Yeah, so some news items, right? I mean, I guess some of our audience may be relatively new to us, but when we started this back in March or April of 2020, one of the main issues was to talk about what's going to happen with COVID overall and to our industry. And, as we've gone on a bit of a roller coaster ride, and I'd say most recently, the sun had been shining and things looked very positive, and we were talking about all the companies bringing people back. I thought this was interesting. Twitter closes more offices and is delaying the return. And the second paragraph is from Bloomberg, who's tracking a number of companies that are delaying their not very, fairly recent announcements of bringing people back. So now, we're seeing a little bit of movement in the other direction, I would say. I would say probably my sense is less movement and more concern and not knowing what's going to happen, right? So I just thought those were interesting, and I'm sure everybody's seeing this type of stuff on the news, but I thought I'd include it. On the other topic that I included here this week, something I've been bringing up fairly regularly is, the movement towards ESG and how that can be a driving force for the types of things we do, right? Efficient, intelligent buildings with good occupant experience, right? There'd been a theme going on about the trouble of organizations hiring people with ESG experience and background. And Greenbuzz, the editors or the CEO's letter, I find pretty interesting. And people were chiming in on a number of different facets of the question about, is there a shortage of people? One of the messages I read in that fairly long letter, and I'd encourage people to go read it for themselves, was that there's still a lot of greenwashing going on, and organizations really aren't bringing on, many organizations aren't bringing on high-level, C-level people who have experience in the buildings. They're bringing on a lot of more image and marketing oriented people around the topic. It's an interesting read about what's really happening with ESG. So.
Thank you for that. I have had Delta on my mind. I think a lot of people are sort of concerned about this. I've been watching, because I was in the UK 2 weeks ago, and I was watching that. It was increasing while I was there, but that's peaked by the looks of it. And obviously, we're now looking at the US to see what's going to happen here. But to me, that's, after all the effort that we put in, that's kind of a little bit scary.
So if you haven't seen today's news, Florida just hit a peak for both number of cases and for hospitalizations. And it's all being driven by the Delta variant. And, Florida's been one of the most liberal of the states in trying to keep an open economy. So it's no doubt is a blow to their direction that they've chosen. And I haven't seen anything from the governor commenting on how he's going to respond to this. But I think hopefully what it will do is cause those who are yet to get vaccinated to get vaccinated. So, because that seems to be the number one recipient, if you will, of people getting sick are those who have failed to get vaccinated, as opposed to breakthrough cases.
Right. It just seems that looking at the UK that we collectively may need to go through another peak before we'll get everybody vaccinated or enough people vaccinated.
Anto, do you ever read, seeing you were over there, on what they consider the percentage of the UK population that has been vaccinated?
I think it's very similar to the US, within a few percentage. It's kind of over 50%, but not quite where it needs to be, which is like 70 or 80%.
Okay.
Okay, so with that, I'm going to switch off my share, and okay, we're going to try. So what we're going to do is I'm going to try this new way of doing things, which is this way. So you should be able to see me. You'll be able to see a screenshot on my camera, so you can zoom that, pin that if you want to see bigger. But basically, this is the slide deck that we've put up on stack.mondaylive.org, and it's this slide deck that we used last week. We also put a link here to the template itself. So if you actually click this, it actually opens up the template file. It's the Google Sheets, Google presentation. And from here, you can then create as the instructions say, make a copy, and then you'll end up with a file that is empty that's for you to do whatever you want with, right? So, and I've labeled this one Smarter Stack Monday Live, August 2nd, which is today. So what we are going to do, so there's only basically the title slide, and this is just a reminder what the Smarter Stack is and some shapes that you may want to use once you start to create some slides. So when you add a blank slide to this, and what we thought we would do first is use this and put all of our different companies that's on Monday Live on here to start to build a map of us. And then once we've done that, we'll spend 10 minutes or so doing that, and then we'll talk about analytics. So who wants to start? Who wants to be the first guinea pig to put a box on this sheet, which is blank right now?
Well, I think I kind of volunteered. I was out last week at the beach, and so I didn't get to spend any time with the final. I thought we might do it a little bit in a discussion, because I think it'll, we've gone through this a few times and have, fairly refined sense of what we mean by each one of the layers, but I thought some discussion would just be helpful. So, the first one that I'd try to do is unrelated to any commercial enterprise. I just thought we might try to map Haystack, the Haystack organization and Haystack technology onto the stack. So if we want to do that, my understanding, and again, this is where I think the discussion's important, right? Because, these terms are, on one hand, they're very clear, but they have, what do we want to say, fuzzy edges to them, maybe? Okay. So certainly Haystack does include services to exchange data. So it definitely belongs there. But it's also directly related to the data model, the data descriptors. So I would put it in the box below as well. Okay. And I don't know whether you copy it twice or you stretch the box. I wasn't sure. I didn't get a chance to do it before the call.
Yeah, and that's obviously the question. That there's several choices. You can have two boxes, so you can have a box that goes all the way across two boxes like that, which to me implies that this is a one entity that's sort of combining both.
Okay, well then I would do two boxes.
Well, there's another approach, which is basically saying that Haystack is an interface between the two. You kind of do this kind of thing. Again, it's an idea.
Yeah, I think I would, based on that description, I'd put it in both places, two separate boxes. You could use it just as the data model, or you can use the data exchange capabilities.
I don't know who that is.
Okay, so I would put it in both of those areas, two separate boxes, and that's really, it's getting data from systems. It's serving that data to apps of one type or another, right? But it doesn't, the open source doesn't include, well, the standard doesn't include apps, but people, this is a good question. People build apps and offer them as open source. People build apps to use Haystack and do stuff with that data. So, then I think that's where it gets a little fuzzy as far as whether you would include a box in apps. Because if somebody went and looked at the standard, they go, there's no apps here. But if they went and looked at the community, they'd see lots of user-generated apps. There's all kinds of apps that.
So how about if it was presented like that? Haystack
user gen
users.
Something like that. Might fit there. And another complexity, I'm not trying to make this difficult, but I think we're trying to figure out how to work with these terms, right? Increasingly people are building Haystack into the systems, the control systems, which has been one of the goals, is data would come out with the proper tagging. So how do you represent that? It isn't the BAS system, but it might be built into it. And I don't know the answer to that. I just want to bring it up, as a question. Okay. But we don't want to mislead people. It's not the BAS or control system or whatever, but it may have a role in there. Okay. And of course that's important because that's one of the goals, is if more and more systems support a standard metadata delivery mechanism, then that's going to help everybody, right? It's going to streamline the operation. So I don't know where to put it there. Okay.
And I think that point, John, which you brought up,
Mhm.
there are other examples or other pieces within the stack that the same could apply to what you just said with respect to Haystack.
So
That it's not the BMS, that it's not a BMS, excuse me, but there's things within it that are related to it or made up or whatever. Whatever.
okay. All right. So back to
Any other people and anybody else have any thoughts on this? Okay.
That's a pretty simple example, I think.
Yeah, I think it is. And I thought that would be a good place to start to help people understand what we mean by the stack. Hey, by the way, we got a note in the chat. News this morning said UK was 82% either vaccinated or had antibodies from having been infected. And so they felt herd immunity was kicking in. That may be why the peak is starting to drop.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that may be 82% of single shots, single jabs, as they call them.
Maybe.
But yeah, that's pretty good.
It's
It wasn't like that 2 weeks ago.
information. Thanks to our audience for that. So, I can stop there and let somebody else go, or, I can take on, my day job commercial company if you want to give it a shot. Up to you.
How about others? Do you want to put something on here and then we'll come back and
Something on top of what John's done already, you mean? I'm sorry, I'm like jumping in.
Somebody
Yeah.
else do their mapping.
well, so this is a mapping. This is let's make this a Haystack mapping.
Okay.
So maybe the way to do this, and we're all sort of experimenting and exploring here. So so maybe Anno, what do you bring to the table that sort of is associated with Haystack, and we can put it around Haystack? Maybe that's kind of one way of thinking about it.
Could do, yeah. Oh, sorry, yeah, I'm on mute. Could you? You want to build on this one or?
Yeah.
Duplicate it.
I'll build on this one. I'll put something
Okay.
somewhere.
Is your screen particularly fuzzy or is that just me?
That's because I'm doing this using a camera, so it's going to be a little bit fuzzy.
I see. Got it.
I can do a screen share if you think that's better.
No, no, that's fine. I was wondering if it was my machine. So a couple of things, I think. Building on top of this. You want me to build on top of this as Haystack, or can I extend it outside of Haystack as well?
Well, I think the perspective here is there is Haystack. This is where we think it is.
Okay.
So what do you care about, or what are your offerings that relate to Haystack? So it kind of has a relationship to these boxes that John has put out there. If that
Okay.
doesn't work, we can go somewhere else.
No, this works. I think I would, in the apps box, I would put, you know, our apps, E2C apps, which is Haystack dependent. We have a whole suite of those. So I don't know if it's just one box or multiple boxes.
Yeah.
It doesn't
I think
matter, I guess.
One box is good.
Okay.
It's a positioning thing.
And I think on the exchange, can you go back to, and we found this the other day, right, Anto? Every time, we needed to jump back to this, right, to make sure that we kept our head straight. Into exchange integration and matching apps, data and services. Yeah, okay, you can go back. So in our case, Haystack is one of them. I don't know if, so we also use Brick. Does that belong here or not?
Let's put it here because it's kind of it relates to, it's in the kind of in the same area of Haystack.
So I put it in the exchange piece,
Okay.
probably.
Schema, right?
Yeah.
Are you okay with that, John and others?
And then I would jump back to the number 3 again, or 2, sorry. Deliver a smart origin only, all the operations to operations and the other users. Yeah, go back to 4. Does this have a place? In the context of this, does delivery have a place, or do we care? I mean, I could jump to outcomes without delivery and operations, if that makes sense.
Yeah. What outcome do you have in mind?
Well, we focus on our outcomes are focused on operations and energy. That's probably a good way to do it.
Okay.
Don't do systems, don't do physical, don't do delivery per se. So jump back again for operations. What's the operation? There's operations to manage the building.
Daily operations.
Yeah, you could jump back. So that's yeah, we don't do that.
Okay. So the two things that you, well, the things that you care about are those around there.
Yeah. Just some more on that, a lot more focus on the apps. We do a lot more focus. There's a lot more on the app side.
Mhm.
Brick it's an addendum, right? It's just an augmentation.
Right.
And then we focus on the outcomes.
Okay.
So, Ano, are all your apps geared to energy? Or are there other outcomes like maintenance?
I put those under operations, Steve.
Yeah, no, I got that. I was just, but so far you identified just energy. That's why I'm asking the question. What other outcomes do you drive?
No, that's what I meant. So he's got operations and energy at the top.
Okay.
There.
Okay.
Yeah, with operations.
And energy. Got it. All right.
You know, you could, maybe they're 2 different boxes, maybe not, you know, doesn't matter.
Okay. Others, Jim, do you want to chime in?
Sure. I'll start a third column, if you don't mind, where we have haystack brick, and then we have symmetric standards that we have been using for 21 years because none of the others existed at the time. We are happy to use any standardized information going in, although we would prefer haystack to brick because we would like to see more critical mass behind one standard than having many others. But we have our own metadata and point naming standard, which we use there.
Did you want to put that in as a internal mechanism?
Yeah, let's call it internal metadata, maybe.
Okay. Okay.
Then, but once again, if given the opportunity to use a standardized exchange format, we would prefer haystack. But where we are today, in a lot of the large non-tritium buildings that we do, haystack has not arrived at the scene yet. We're encouraging people for it to arrive, but we still don't see it a lot in the big buildings yet. A lot in the tritium domain, but beyond that, not as much. So apps, we certainly have a Symmetrics Analytica, let's call it, series of apps. And I would add to the delivery box, we have a technology-enabled consultancy where we use humans to help deliver action to the end user. And that might transgress the operations line slightly, but probably not. And definitely outcomes. In addition to operations and energy, predictive maintenance and enterprise applications.
So
And
is that operations or is that outcomes?
that's put that last thing in outcomes.
Okay. What did you say was?
Let's put in predictive maintenance as well and enterprise applications. Which is a concept that we haven't discussed much as an industry, but there's an awful lot of value in enterprise management of large systems in these areas. And those can be asset management applications as well as compliance applications. Once you put enterprise, and if you need another box, I think compliance and resiliency are worth a whole other box on the top row.
Okay. Okay.
Good. So operations is tough because by dictate, we insist on not turning the knobs in the building, but we may advise on what knobs to turn.
Which is part of this, right? Part of the consulting.
Correct.
Yeah.
As for data, we have once again our own layer, which is largely based on BACnet open systems technology with extensions. We do support many other protocols in those domains as well.
Okay.
I think that's enough for me for now. I'll let other people get a word in.
All right. Mark, Tracy, one of you want to go next?
Sure. So let's kind of start down. For us, I would go put us in systems.
What do you want me to put there? Yeah, different product lines for different things. So
Yeah. So, I mean, systems could be BACnet, Niagara, other open systems, and again, depending on how we end up defining systems.
Right, so don't you have a product line that covers? that?
So we would put Genesis, Genesis Edge, Onyx, Onyx LX. I mean,
Genesis, etc. here, like that?
yeah, that's fine. That'll
Okay.
work. That works.
All right.
All right, and then from a we would be in data in that our systems, obviously through connectivity, are accessing the data, normalizing it, haystacking, tagging it via haystack, so forth and so on, and obviously then go somewhere at some particular point in time for somebody to do analytics from that data.
So is that a product? Is there a brand associated to that?
It would be all Genesis, et cetera.
So what shall I type in here?
Just,
Data
I don't
lake?
know, you know,
Data warehouse, data lake?
and no, I wouldn't call it that, because it's both edge and cloud data.
Okay,
So I would put data, edge and cloud, I guess.
Okay.
That makes sense.
that'll make sense if we put it there. Okay,
All right, and then exchange would be, in this case, haystack for us as well.
all right, so we already have that here there, so we.
Yeah. Apps might be apps such as application-specific controllers, or what we call edge-centric applications.
Is it actually a product, Mark, of a piece of software that you sell?
It's a piece of software that can be included in the hardware. But yeah, or somebody can buy that software too, Steve.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. And in many cases, we give it away if somebody wants it.
Okay.
So with respect to delivery, now, in my opinion, I look at delivery as connectivity, integration, interoperability, the whole data access normalization, exchange, visualization, and control, edge to cloud. So that, for me, for us, in our particular case, that's what delivery is right there, which is a mouthful.
So what do you want me to type in here?
Put in connectivity, integration, interoperability. How about that?
And what's the last one?
Interoperability.
So in the case where LinkSpring sells product through a channel, in most cases, but not in all cases, in some cases, they do business direct with end users, and they're acting as the systems integrator, as I understand it, Mark, right?
That's correct.
Right, okay. So in this category of delivery, guys, what are we, from a basic perspective of, does the product become available through a channel partner? Is it being sold direct? Like, I think, Jim, you sell your applications direct to the end user.
That's right.
So how do we really want it, just for putting aside the scope of activity, which is really what Mark was talking about, the actual mechanism for how you sell it and get it to the market? Do we want each of us to identify very clearly sort of how you can buy the product?
Yeah.
So is
because
that a better go to market?
Well, I would put, because you have a channel, right? You have resellers. I think that's what I would put there.
Well,
Resellers or channel.
Yep.
I think
I'm just saying,
everybody's going to be, I was going to say, to your point, Steve, everybody's different. For us,
Right.
it's channel. It is, to your point, direct relationships with some selective end users, and it's OEM. Other OEMs in the industry buy our technology,
Right.
and offer it or embed it into their particular offerings.
Yeah, so you got three ways you get to market.
Correct. Correct.
And that's why I'm saying, from a delivery standpoint, do we want to use that line in particular just to talk about how you get the product?
Mhm.
or products.
So,
to
so
your
I put their channel OEM and national accounts.
Right.
That's how you think about them. Those are kind of the three ways that you go. And the subject is connectivity, integration, and interoperability.
That makes sense.
Okay. With Haystack here, obviously. Okay, that's great. Gracie?
Can you, I'm driving, so it'll be difficult for me to follow along on the screen, but maybe pull mine up from the other day. Talk through that a little bit.
Yeah, I have it, but on a different screen. So Tracy basically has, I'm going to copy stuff onto this, a distribution business. Obviously, people know that. They have an integration, an engineering integration business, which is in the exchange layer. And then he has another, he has a product that's called, I don't know where I'm going to put all this.
eView IoT.
Yeah, no, I have it on the.
Okay.
Don't do that. So I'll put it here. There you go. A product called eView IoT, and he has two versions of that. One looks like this. The other one looks like this. I'm just going to overlay them on top of each other. One's retail, the other one's OEM. I'm running out of space in this one. So the difference is that in the retail, he delivers it and he provides the systems part of it. And in the OEM, he just does the middle part, which is the data exchange and apps.
The retail is kind of a top to bottom solution for the most part, because we deliver hardware, software, we manage the data exchange, we integrate other data sources into it based on the customer's existing requirements and systems.
Right.
So OEM, we cut a few of those steps out and it's more compressed into the middle.
Okay. Anybody else? Who have I missed here?
You got, John needs to do his
Oh, yeah.
product line, and
Yeah, of
Bill
course.
needs to do Tazi. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we need a new screen. We're getting too crowded here.
Yeah, I was gonna make these all smaller. And then we can do this. I think I'd like to get it all in one screen if we possibly can. So John, so you have a SkySpark somewhere.
Yep, I'll be glad to do it. I think we can do this pretty quick. So certainly, I'm going to start top and go to bottom, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, the whole goal is to deliver outcomes, right, around improved operations and energy. I'd use those two. It's, predictive fault detection, et cetera. So, I'd put that up at the top as operations and energy efficiency are both. I put that there. Okay.
So that's already covered here, right?
Yeah, but if I'm looking at this as I need to do a column.
Okay.
I can lay that out. So put that, we deliver outcomes around operations and energy. Okay.
Okay.
And so then definitely would have a box in delivery, because our software has numerous ways to deliver the results to the people, typically in operations. So there's numerous ways to do that. We're talking about, okay, sorry. That's the channel. So yeah, so we have channel, VAR, VAD, and OEM. Channel, VAR, VAD, and OEM is how I would say delivery.
Channel, VAR,
VAD.
and OEM. Okay.
Okay. As far as apps, we have a whole suite of apps in SkySpark. That's the product name, but it has a whole suite of apps, from greenhouse gas to energy to workflow tools, et cetera. So, suite of apps, you can call it SkySpark Suite or something. And, it definitely fits in Exchange because that's one of its capabilities is it's open to get data in and data out in a whole variety of formats from XML to JSON to other technologies as well. So import and export, those two words imply batch. So I would, it's not limited to batch. It can be streaming data in and streaming data out. So import, export are not ideal words because they connotate batch delivery of data. I don't know what the right word is there. It's because we have multiple ways of delivering the data. Many people want batch, but
I want you to say batch and streaming. You could
yeah,
do that.
batch and streaming.
Yeah, I was going there.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, and then, of course, it is a major data repository. For many projects, it becomes the database of record, so that's going to be there. We use Haystack as the metadata model, but the technology is called Folio. Folio/Haystack would probably be a good way to represent it.
Okay.
And then finally, we do have play in systems. We have OEMs embedding it in control and monitoring devices, IoT devices out there on smart valves like Belimo, on packaged equipment, on restaurant equipment, et cetera. So there's embedded applications where it is at the system level.
Is that embedded SkySpark essentially,
Yep.
or embedded?
It's SkySpark embedded at edge, very small
Yeah.
edge IoT devices. So, okay. So that's what we fit.
Nice.
Okay.
Cool. Who did we miss? Bill.
Let's start right there where John left off. We'll build our way back up. So systems, Tosibox, fully embedded as a software product on PLCs, controllers, HMIs, VFDs. So you could have it embedded into a system.
So Tosibox itself, the box.
Yep. No, this is software. This is not the box.
Okay, but yeah, okay.
So you can embed this Tosibox, the brand.
Hmm.
You can embed it anywhere, just sort of playing off what John said. Then the next layer up, agnostic to data, but you could also take your data anywhere. You could build your global local area network, take it to the cloud. So I'll let you describe that how you want there.
This is what you're enabling in terms of data.
Right.
You don't actually. Good question. Is this? I don't know what to put in here.
So just put agnostic. All right.
Okay.
For Exchange, I'll let you guys help me with this. Faye, help me out here. What explain that?
So you're doing I mean, one of the things you're doing is you're encrypting the data inside your tunnel, and so the data itself is you're transferring it from the user to the control system or the control system to a cloud, but you're doing it inside your Tosibox tunnel.
Mhm.
And so, guys, it's a way to exchange the data, if you will, from point A. It's a way to communicate the data from point A to point B, but doing it in a secure fashion. It's not the way we're describing Exchange right now from a
Right,
Haystack or
right.
Brick standpoint. Is different. The question is, where should it live given what it's doing?
I think at this level, that is a method of exchange and it would go here. I mean, in some of the discussions we've had, we can drill further into every one of these layers, right?
Yeah.
Right.
For more detail. So I would absolutely include it there.
Yeah, well, I
Brian-
like that. It's cybersecurity.
Yeah.
Well,
Brian
in fact,
Turner,
Secure comms, is that?
Yeah, secure comms.
Yeah.
secure tunnel is what Brian's suggesting.
yeah,
Okay.
Brian was suggesting it should go in the delivery column because if you treat delivery as how to get it from point A to point B versus how it's getting to market. But
Yeah, we've
It's-
always meant how it's getting to market.
Yeah,
yeah,
Up to this
Right.
point, so it doesn't belong in our current method of delivery. We meant,
right.
that's what we meant exchange by, can it deliver data?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, got that.
Yeah, but I would say secure tunnel makes, if we leave it in exchange for that reason, I'm comfortable with that.
All right, so apps,
Sorry, Bill, just to take you back. I'm sorry, man,
Yeah, man.
but just a different perspective. Is there anything in your exchange? Are there any other APIs not to do with the data, but more to do with the apps and the setup? And is there metadata that I can extract out of your system that would be of interest to others?
no,
That's not the data. Okay, that's fine.
no, nope. Remember, this is Cisco you can afford.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Apps,
in the apps.
I would just say something as bold as yes.
No, that's your management console, right? That's really what you have there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
If that's what you're talking about, then
Yeah.
yeah, I guess. Network management console, that seems limiting. But yeah, we do bring that. Mobile and computer network management. Delivery, just like John, channel, VAR, VAD, and OEM, a little value-added distributor, value-added reseller channel. Where would your MSIs, and they'd be all in the VARs or whatever?
VARs, yeah.
Yeah. Same thing. Yeah.
Just do that.
And then outcomes, the outcomes are whatever you guys want, right up, just say everything, man. Because without
Well,
cybersecurity.
no, I
and
think
data-
I think it's very specific for you. It's secure
Security.
comms.
Secure
Secure
remote access.
communication.
Yeah, secure communications, yep.
Secure communication.
Yeah, I think.
If nothing else, Bill, yours is the most definitive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like what Brian says, network management. Yep, that's true. Brian knows it's Cisco you can afford.
No, that's not management.
Brian, I'd be interested to talk to you about what happened with Iotium recently and the surprising fact that they were in 800 buildings worldwide. That's a conversation for another time.
Okay. Who else is not on
And
here?
so what about my security business? Where does that belong on this table?
Well, I would say that you have a business selling backnet stack, so I would put backstack here. Right?
What about the secured by Symmetrics offering? Same place?
I would say the same place. And manage backnet.
Right.
It's definitely it's not really data. I'm not sure it's exchange as such.
Well, I think it is exchange. Yeah, I'm thinking you need an entire vertical stack for the security business.
Right.
I think you diminish it by trying to stick it under the other things, right? I think it needs its own stack or own vertical column.
Yeah, we're running out of space, so yeah, I don't know how to do this easily. So basically, all of this stuff is security. This is security. Copy that and put it over here. There you go. So this is a security view.
Well,
What
that's the perspective of the tool, right? Is you can use it for any view that you want to talk
Yeah.
about.
Right.
So, yeah. So you think that the backstack and you think there's a role for this in the exchange layer. Describe how. What is enabling? Backnet data.
Well, it really depends on how you define things here. Certainly managed backnet has the, managed gateways in it as well, Anto. So you would, it would be a question of, how you bifurcated the exchange line. Because it's certainly touching it. I don't know, it's sort of a complicated question.
And you can probably argue that there's an apps role here.
There is for the maintenance and configuration of aforesaid security.
Security.
And delivery, I would say, is, how do we say OEM licensing here?
You just say OEM.
Just OEM.
Yeah.
For delivery.
That's how you deliver your stuff. Well, although you do have a product, you sell
The direct,
product directly.
well, yeah. And outcomes is secure comms.
Right. Secure comms, or is that, you want to put that specifically BACnet?
Sure. Let's say specifically BACnet.
Secure BACnet.
Jimmy, there's plenty of room for both of us, man. You don't have to compete with me.
No, it's all good, Bill.
Okay.
Mine can go inside of yours anyways. It's
That's
all good.
right. That's right.
All right. Who else is missing? Me, I guess.
Yeah.
So I'll go back here. I think the way I would describe Paddy is that Paddy is here and connection profile is here. And that's it.
Isn't it for exchange? Delivery is how is the channel.
Well, I think what happens in the delivery is that there's two ways of putting stuff here. There's the who does delivery, and then there's the what. If you think about connectivity, this role, this is the what. This is kind of the technology. So there's nothing wrong putting a product or a technology that does delivery, and I don't think there's anything wrong with putting a type of business.
Yeah, I don't know how people will be able to understand. Those are two totally different classifications. I always thought we meant, how does it get to the customer? It's by system integrator or a direct sell, right? As we've seen.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that, to me, that I find that bothersome because that doesn't align with the other 6 columns, right?
I have a bit of a challenge too, because at the end of the day, and someone has to actually take your Paddy tool and do something, right? There's some execution required, and in my mind, that is the delivery person. So even if it's a mailman, right? A mailman still has to take a letter, even though.
Yeah. It could be the end user directly, but it's
Correct,
still,
yeah.
who delivers it. I think we've got to keep delivery meaning what I thought we.
Okay, so this could be Paddy user / OEM.
Yeah, and then there's Paddy also should be in the apps line, right? Because it's an app.
Well, it isn't an app, it's an app store. It's an app store mechanism, so it enables apps. So I guess it would go in here as an app enabler.
So I want to bring this up. So under outcomes so we've got, what we have, for examples, operation, energy, compliance, resistant, et cetera. Now, those tend to be more business related outcomes, which is what you think of an outcome. But is connectivity an outcome? My building is not connected now. None of my devices talk or whatever. Is connectivity in that sense an outcome?
You go back to the description, Anto, the second slide. What did we say?
I think it depends on whose perspective you're thinking of.
Right.
Well, it's to me where it could go either way, just like what we were talking, John's point. Is it the market delivery, OEM channel, whatever, or, was it the other one? I mean, ultimately, this is going to be it's a tool, and it's however it's positioned by the person or persons using this tool.
Yeah, I think I think that's I guess I'm wondering if there's some kind of thing necessary here to describe that. I mean, we put security view, which implies something, but it doesn't really.
Well, actually, so Rick just said something fascinating in the chat, which might talk to your point, Mark, is that there's an obvious hole in all of our stuff with the operations section, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's a huge hole there.
Yep. Yeah.
Go
Yeah, so
back
for
to how we
example-
define operations and
Right.
tell.
Operations is the operations to manage the building on a daily basis.
So are you managing that building through connectivity? Choose your flavors of choice, as an example. Are you managing that building through the integration of the systems? Are you managing those operations by being able to access data and do something with it? And are doing something with it?
Or is manageability an outcome in and of itself?
Hmm.
Yeah,
Well,
like an example of Patty, its UI is designed to let a building operator gain access to all of their different systems from one common screen. Is that an operations thing versus an app thing? What exactly do we have in mind when we say operations?
is it control?
No, let
I'm
me
controlling
jump
my
in.
building.
I thought I understood it, so let me jump in.
Yeah.
Go back to the next slide where you were just on that you mapped out. I didn't find it that ominous that operations is black, because nobody on the call does operations. But if we had somebody from JLL here, they'd say, yeah, we do operations for people.
Well,
DRE. So I don't think this is ominous. None of us do that.
Yeah.
Other companies
this team,
So if,
yeah.
invite them in, and that's the only box they'd fill, or they'd fill outcomes and operations. They wouldn't fill the technology stack.
Right.
I agree with John.
One would argue, though, that the ability, the access, the remote connectivity,
you're breaking up, Tracy.
the ability, that is an outcome. I'm remote, but I would argue that the ability to do operations, to be connected to a system, to have access to the data, all of that would be an outcome.
That would produce an outcome. That would
So-
satisfy. That would satisfy an
Well,
outcome.
The outcome was produced by the mere fact that we gave them that ability,
Right.
is what I'm saying.
Mhm.
I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I'm saying, and the actual outcome of having a connected system and seeing all of that, that is kind of the foundational, table stakes of an outcome, right? So that is the first outcome that has to be achieved in any kind of a system like this or stack like this, is first of all, the operators, the users have to have access to everything.
Mhm.
So that is the primary outcome. And then
Which is-
everything gets built upon that.
Yeah, which to your point is the word operation under outcomes.
Right.
You can operate the system. When you say operation, what you mean is you have the ability to operate the system in its entirety. And then secondarily, if you happen to add in energy, your outcome is, hey, well, we're also delivering lower energy costs.
Yeah,
That's
don't
right.
forget, guys, that what we're doing. We don't need to convince each other and ourselves here, right? At the end of the day, the way I see the use of the tool is that it's a tool that you would use with your customers or your channel or whoever to say, help them understand what you do. And if you want to put, anything in the box, and your job then is to convince, whoever's going to buy your solution that, yes, I agree with your point of view, right? Whether I agree with your point of view, Steve, for argument's sake, might not matter because I'm probably never going to buy any of your product, right? For argument's sake. But so whatever you put in the boxes is not here for us to, totally 100% agree on, because you're going to use it as a tool to explain why you're doing what you do for a particular customer, a channel partner, or whoever you're working with.
Yeah, but Anno, if we don't come to define these boxes, if you will, on the left column in the same way, then we can't we can't have a conversation from vendor to vendor.
Fair enough.
We've got to agree on what the terms mean. Just like we did on delivery. We said, no, delivery is about how you get it to market. So now we all agree on that, and then that made it easier for us to decide.
Yeah,
what goes in
I'm
there.
sorry. I wasn't arguing the terminologies per se, but what you end up putting in if we all agree that outcomes has a specific definition, and at the end of the day, I want to put, my outcome is smartphones, and my customer's going to go, dude, that doesn't align with the standard model. So, what are you talking about? But I agree. I think the terminology needs to be in agreement.
If you look at the enterprise management moniker, what we're actually doing is providing oversight over the operations to achieve outcomes. So we're basically, as an industry, selling Big Brother to ensure from top to bottom that systems are operating properly, and the operators and the outsourced people that are operating those things are doing their jobs. So I think that it's a whole, but I think it's definitional.
Yeah, and if you think of it in terms of,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
as I say, if you think of it in terms of when you're out selling, for us, for instance, in the retail industry, the very thing that we're selling is the ability to have control and get data and, have
Yeah, we lost you, Tracy.
first and foremost, because small retail operations aren't used to that.
Yeah, Tracy, we can't really.
I don't know what else to do. I'm just in a bad. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, well.
But Rick's point just now on the chat is, I think it's valid, as basically what John said and Jim agreed, and I agree with that. We've just described the gaps that exist in this group.
Yeah.
If Scott was here, Scott Hoffman, he would have put a box somewhere in the operations, I'm pretty sure, from a JLL
Right.
perspective.
So maybe part of what a takeaway from this discussion today is, should we go back and try to define those sections? In other words, we did one today for sure, I think, as a group. Should we go back and try to define what those others are? And would that help? Would that enhance the tool?
I think we should have a written definition for what we
Yeah.
mean by each one of the names.
That's
in
what I'm
the
saying.
column. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
what
we
I'm
should do
saying.
that. We should hash that out. I think we came to these exercises with a general understanding, but now we need to codify it.
And it was clear to me there's some differences of opinion
Yeah.
with respect, and that's fine, with outcomes. And again, I might have a specific definition of what a true outcome is. A specific KPI or something that is truly specific. I want to save energy, and I want to save 15% I want to reduce my energy cost by 15%. Is that an outcome? Yes,
Yes.
it is. Simple one, but yes.
Okay, we're at the top of the hour, so we need to bring this to a close. I think this has been a good conversation. I think this is the first great sort of broad conversation about this to any depth, and I think this is great. We'll continue this next week.
Okay, good.
So thank you, everybody, for their contribution, and we'll put a video up. Did you want to say something, Anna?
I was just thinking, what there's not now, but maybe there's an opportunity to bring in people for the missing gaps, right? Because we also have nobody in the physicals, right?
Right.
Might be a focus point.
That's true.
All right.
All right. Very good.
Sorry about my audio. Sorry about my audio, everyone.
Get a better phone, Tracy.
Yeah, I had to switch to a dial-in instead of internet.
Ooh,
Yeah.
lots.
All
All
right.
right. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Hey, guys.
Oh.
Bye-bye.